Greetings, YouTube. As I've mentioned in the past, I value my right to privacy. I think it's very important, and I've always been somewhat distressed that we don't have a constitutional amendment guaranteeing that right to privacy. The closest we've got is the Fourth Amendment, which is important, but it doesn't specifically address the the details of personal privacy in enough depth, in my opinion. I think one of the reasons that we don't have a constitutional amendment is that the Founding Fathers simply didn't really see a need. What they wrote in the Fourth Amendment, they figured would protect you more or less from everything that a government would do, and that every other aspect of your life would remain private. That it was an artifact of the social structure that they wrote the documents in. And at the time, the idea of really sticking your nose into other people's business was a somewhat foreign concept, and so they didn't see it as being necessary to enshrine those kind of rights in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. I wish they had, and I think that we need one now to not only guarantee our private rights, but to protect our data, to make sure that the government can't misuse our data, make sure that private industry, the private sector cannot misuse our data, that if they want our data because they want to do business with us, that they are responsible for maintaining that data, for protecting that data, and if they cannot do that, then they don't want our business bad enough now, do they? I think that if we put it in such a way, if we said, okay, you want our data, insurance card companies and loaners and things like that, then you have to make sure that our data is absolutely protected. There would be a market-driven need for better security, and we would see better security in no time, because those credit card companies aren't going to turn away all that profit just because their security systems suck. And the latest book I just finished reading, The Right to Privacy by Alderman and Carolyn Kennedy, and yes, that's one of the Kennedys, a person that knows a lot about being raised in the public eye, of having your privacy something that gets trotted off up and down the street every day. This book covers pretty much every aspect of privacy that you could imagine, and it covers each topic in a lot of depth. It gives specific cases that dealt with each of these different types of privacy. It talks about tort law. It discusses little blurbs of individual cases that went for and against different people in relationship to each chapter. I really liked the way this book was structured. I enjoyed the writing style. It was very readable. It was very approachable. There was nothing in here overly legalistic. It was not something you have to worry about, am I going to be able to understand this book? Anybody who has a high school education or a reading skill around that level is going to be able to grasp this without any kind of problem. There's a lot of references in the back. This is going to be one of the books that I'm going to be keeping on my shelf, which is unfortunate because recently a number of the books I've read have been good, and I'm keeping them on the shelf, which means my shelves are filling up again, which means I'm going to have to start editing again. The never-ending struggle with a limited number of bookshelves. But I definitely recommend this book to anyone who considers privacy to be important, would like to know what their rights are. And unfortunately, some of the stories in here are depressing. To me, it's depressing to see that sometimes our privacy gets trampled on, and the justifications in my mind are not always good. I don't think the government always has just cause. I don't think private individuals always have just cause when it comes to impinging upon my rights and your rights to being left alone. And some of it is just because of the way this words of laws are structured, and some of it is a philosophical point of view that I don't like. I don't like the fact that our Supreme Court at the moment is just a tad on the conservative side for my choice, my preference. But this book is a little out of date, so take that into account. It doesn't really deal with anything in the 21st century. This is all 20th century information. But I still think it's a great background, a lot of solid information, and it's a good jumping off point if you wanted to learn about things later. This would give you a good foundation for that kind of thing. So anyone who likes privacy, I recommend this book. It's a good read.